okay. President Rodrigo Duterte hinted once again that his former special assistant could probably run for the highest office in government. Speaking after administering the oath of new government officials in Malacanang Thursday, Duterte said, maybe he wants to be president kasi lahat ng sunog nandun siya, he is everywhere there is a fire. Duterte then joked Senator Bongo should tone it down and not be so obvious, na nakapa sa, a wala pang sunog nandun ka na a. Ikaw ata tiga sindi. Na nakapa dun sa bumbero. Well, hawag mo masyudong sobrahan baka mahalata. Hawag mo madalasan yung sunog. Translation, you're there before the fire hasn't even started and you're already there. Are you the one lighting it? You're there before the firefighters. Don't do it too often or they might catch on. Go issued a statement on what Duterte said. I have no plans of running for president. Hindi ko po inambisyonayan. Masaya na po ako na nabigyan ako ng pagkakataon na magserbiso sa kapwa kong Pilipino, he said. Translation, I have no plans of running for president. I am not aiming for that. I happy enough to have been given the chance to serve my fellow Filipinos. Ayako pa po pag-usapan ang politika, mas gusto kong unahin ang pagsaserbiso. Pero kung tatanungin ninyo ako tungkol sa 2022 elections, I am willing to volunteer as campaign manager sa kung sinuman ang makakapagpatuloy ang pagbabago na inumpisahan ni Pangulong Duterte go added. Translation, I do not like talking politics, I prefer to serve. But if you were to ask me about the 2022 elections, I am willing to volunteer as campaign manager to anyone who would continue what President Duterte started. The Filipino crew member of a cruise ship in Japan is in stable condition at a hospital after testing positive for novel coronavirus (nCoV), according to a Philippine official in Japan on Friday. Siya po ay nasa ising hospital na po dito sa Japan being treated po and ang aming balita po ay mukhang maganda naman ang kaniyang response dun sa treatment na binibigay sa kaniya, Robespierre Bolivar, Philippine Deputy Chief of Mission to Japan, said in an interview on Double B News TV. He said that 538 Filipinos, 531 crew members and 7 guest passengers, are aboard the Yokohama-bound cruise ship Diamond Princess, which has been subjected to quarantine after one of the guests who disembarked and joined a bus tour tested positive for nCoV. As of Friday morning, the number of nCoV positive persons inside the vessel climbed to 61. Bolivar said that the Japanese government has yet to announce if there are additional Filipinos affected. Philippines could lose up to 10 billion pesos in aid if VFA ends. By Imor Sant, country stands to lose billions of pesos worth of United States assistance if it terminates the Visiting Forces Agreement, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Teddy Boy Locsin Jr. said on Thursday. During a Senate hearing on military agreements with the U.S., Locsin highlighted direct benefits from the VFA, including military assistance and financial grants. Locsin said the U.S. plans to spend more than $200 million, or around 10 billion pesos, over the next 2 years to provide the Philippines with aircraft, training equipment and help in the construction of facilities. Without the VFA, the U.S. Departments of State and Defense will be hard put to get funds from the U.S. Congress for the defense assistance programs to the Philippines, he said. The VFA is a 1998 agreement between Manila and Washington on the protocol for American military personnel in the country. Among its controversial provisions are the lax visa and passport policies for American troops and the authority granted to the U.S. government to retain jurisdiction over military personnel if ever they commit crimes locally. The Visiting Forces Agreement. Duterte threatened to scrap the VFA in January in response to the U.S. cancellation of Senator Ronald Bato Dela Rosa's visa. A Senate resolution has urged the president to reconsider the move to allow senators to assess the withdrawal from the treaty. Locsin said the continuance of the agreement is deemed to be more beneficial, noting that abrogating it may also affect other important deals with the U.S., including the Mutual Defense Treaty (MDT), and the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement (EDCA). There would essentially be no practical use for an EDCA in the absence of VFA, which is the legal framework for the presence of U.S. military personnel and military exercises and actual military responses under the MDT. Without them, the MDT is just a piece of paper, Locsin said. The MDT states that each country would come to the defense of the other in case of an attack by a foreign country, while the EDCA, which Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon said was merely an implementation of the VFA, allows the U.S. military to use and control 5 bases in the Philippines. Locsin said the VFA also ensures the operability between Philippine and American forces in joint activities. Through the years, U.S. forces have been instrumental in countering security threats, Locsin said, adding that they have also provided humanitarian assistance during disaster response. He further warned that backing out of the VFA could put the Philippines in a bad light as it affects the country's credibility to deliver mutual arrangements. While the VFA is a bilateral agreement, there may be repercussions in the way other SS allies or other U.S.-friendly countries perceive and/or conduct their foreign relations with the Philippines, Locsin said. The senior diplomat said there would be an impact on bilateral trade, investments and tourism considering that the U.S. is the Philippines' biggest source of grants, third largest trading partner, and fifth source of investments. Despite numerous advantages to keeping the VFA, Locsin said a vigorous review is called for after American senators insulted Philippine sovereignty in repeatedly calling for the release of Senator Leila de Lima, an opposition lawmaker detained on drug charges. However, he noted that preferring a review over termination is not the formal position of the Department of Foreign Affairs, which is awaiting Duterte's green light before it sends the U.S. a notice to terminate the VFA. Under the 2-decade military pact, the VFA can be terminated via a written notice from either of the countries. Expiration will come 180 days from the time either party notifies the other. Metro Manila, CNN Philippines, February 6, the remains of the Chinese man who succumbed to novel coronavirus 2019 nCoV infection may just be buried in a public cemetery if no crematorium will accept it, Health Secretary Francisco Duque said Thursday. Duque said the department has still not found a crematorium that would receive the body. He added he has instructed the San Lazaro Hospital in Manila to coordinate with a public cemetery on a burial without cremation. The crematory owners have decided not to cremate for not very clear reasons, so I have instructed the medical executive from San Lazaro Hospital to coordinate with the public cemetery and see if the corpse can just be buried there, he said in a media briefing. The secretary did not identify the cemetery. Duque said they would still need to clarify matters with the Chinese embassy given that Chinese health officials have opted for cremation for coronavirus victims. China's health ministry has even banned burials and funerals to prevent the spread of the virus. They, San Lazaro Hospital, have to also get in touch with the Chinese embassy because the initial agreement was for cremation to be undertaken, Duque said. So now if it's not going to be cremated and buried instead, I don't know what the protocol is with regards to that. The 44-year-old patient passed away on February 1. A number of crematoriums, mostly run by Chinese operators, have since backed out, causing delays in disposal. Henry Lim Bon Leong, president of the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Inc., said it is a common practice not just among Chinese-operated crematoriums but also Filipino businesses to refuse infected cadavers. They are all in one single industry practice which does not allow them to cremate people dying of infectious disease, so we want to clear with you, it's really the norm, Leong told CNN Philippines on the record. Leong said the health department could have just disposed the body in a government crematorium instead. Meanwhile, World Health Organization representative Rabindra Abayansai deferred the matter of cremation to national rules. On the possible health risks from not burning the body, he said, ideally the virus wouldn't be surviving so long in a cadaver. However, he added that the corpse must be sealed inside a body bag since it hosted an infectious disease. We don't want to expose health workers and other workers to unnecessary threat, Abayasinghe said. The 2019 nCoV has killed more than 560 and infected over 28,000 people. The WHO maintained that the virus mortality rate of 2% is significantly lower than previous infectious diseases such as Middle East Respiratory Syndrome and Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. The mortality rate for MERS in 2009 was at 34% while for SARS in 2002 was at 14%, Abayenzinghe shared. Foreign affairs officials and the flight crew who will bring home dozens of Filipinos from novel coronavirus-hit Hubei province in China have to undergo mandatory quarantine in New Clark City in Tarlac, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III said on Friday. Members of DFA's repatriation team arrived in Wuhan City, the epicenter of the deadly 2019 NCOV, on Thursday to finalize preparations to bring home 45 Filipinos this weekend. They are expected to land in Clark International Airport on Sunday. Duque said all flight passengers will be screened before boarding the flight. Those who show coronavirus symptoms will not be allowed to board the aircraft and instead will be taken to hospitals in China. Once the plane lands in the Philippines, the passengers will once again undergo medical screening. Those who have fever, colds, or cough will be sent to local hospitals. Duque said all members of the repatriation team and the crew on board the flight who are not showing flu-like symptoms will join the repatriated Filipinos for 14 days to comply with mandatory quarantine of those from Hubei. Upon landing, they will be transported via a bus to the Building A of the Athletes Village in New Clark City, which was constructed in late 2019 for the Southeast Asian Games.